Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're glad you could join us for AI Podcast Weekly AI News Summary. This week, we're jumping into the AI news for the week ending July 7th, 2025. Yeah, our goal here is, as always, to sift through all the headlines, all the research papers, and just pull out the key insights for you. Think of it as your weekly shortcut to staying informed. And this week, there's a really interesting contrast emerging. You've got nations, big tech, all racing for more computing power, building this massive AI infrastructure, billions pouring in. But then on the other side, you see these, well, quirky, sometimes frankly bizarre ways AI is actually bumping up against the real world, showing how far we still have to go. It's quite the story. Let's dive in.
Absolutely. The pace is just relentless, isn't it? And staying on top of it isn't just about knowing the news, it's about understanding the implications, the bigger picture.
Hmm.
And that's what we'll try to do here. Connect these different threads for you from global strategy down to, well, rogue office supply AIs.
Okay, so let's start with that global race. How are different regions trying to get ahead?
Well, what's really striking is how different the strategies are. Take China first. Hangzhou's Liangzhu district, they're calling it Coder Village now.
Coder Village.
Yeah, it's become this real magnet for smaller AI startups. And the draw is pretty clear. Government subsidies, tax breaks, and importantly, affordable living, which matters a lot for startups.
So it's not just Beijing saying do AI, it's more organic, like building an ecosystem.
Exactly. It feels more bottom-up, driven by these incentives. You see these startups clustering around the big players there, like Alibaba and DeepSeek, and that creates this, vibrant environment. They're innovating in areas like multimodal models, speech recognition. DeepSeek's also making waves with its open source stuff. So this growth in Liangzhu, it really reflects China's larger ambition to compete head-to-head with the U.S. and Europe in AI.
Right, cultivating that talent locally. Okay, interesting. So shifting gears, let's look at India. Their approach seems more centralized. The Indie AI mission.
Very much so. India's strategy is quite different, definitely more government-led and massive in scale. They got something like 506 proposals for foundational models, and 43 of those were specifically for LLMs, large language models.
Wow, 506. Who's likely to benefit from that? Startups.
Yeah, it looks like startups such as Sarvangnani, Gun, and Socket AI Labs are getting big boosts. They're getting crucial access to GPUs, grants, that kind of thing.
TPU access is key, right?
Yeah.
I saw something about huge demand, like proposals needing over 2,000 GPUs each. How do they even manage that?
It's a huge bottleneck, yeah. That's why a big part of the mission is this GPU tender involving NVIDIA's latest Blackwell GPUs. But it's not just about the hardware. The strategic goal here is boosting India's sovereign AI capabilities, especially NLP, natural language processing, which is critical given India's huge linguistic diversity.
Oh, okay. So it's about tailoring AI to India's specific needs.
Exactly. The government's providing the funding, the infrastructure, the hardware grants, really trying to accelerate things nationally and manage that GPU demand.
Makes sense. Okay, so China's organic growth, India's centralized push. What about Europe? They've got this 20 billion plan for AI gigafactories.
Yeah, Europe's plan is incredibly ambitious too, and the response shows just how much pent-up demand there is. They got applications from 76 companies across 16 EU countries. They're looking at 60 potential sites.
76 companies. Wow. And the scale of these factories.
Huge. Each proposed facility could house around 100,000 cutting-edge AI chips. The collective aim, something like 3 million next-generation GPUs deployed across Europe.
3 million GPUs. That's a lot of compute. What's driving that urgency? Why the push for domestic infrastructure?
Well, it seems everyone wants in. Cloud providers, telcos, finance companies, they all need access to serious AI compute, and they want it closer to home. If you connect the dots, Europe's main goal seems to be reducing its dependence on the US and China for this critical infrastructure.
Bolstering their own tech sovereignty, basically.
Precisely. And also maybe democratizing access a bit more across the continent rather than having it concentrated in a few hands.
So it's interesting. China's fostering local hubs. India's building national capacity. Europe's aiming for shared infrastructure. This doesn't sound like one single winner is emerging, does it?
Not necessarily. It feels more like we're seeing the rise of distinct regional AI ecosystems, each with its own strengths, its own weaknesses, its own approach. It's shaping up to be a multipolar AI world, I think.
Okay, that's the big picture on infrastructure.
Yeah.
Now let's zoom in on the corporate side. How are individual companies fueling their ambitions? Let's talk Meta. Big news there.
Yeah, Meta's making a really interesting move on the financing front. They're looking to raise a massive $29 billion in private financing.
$29 billion.
Just for AI data centers.
Specifically for U.S. AI data center expansion, yes. It's broken down as $3 billion in equity and a whopping $26 billion in debt.
And who's providing that kind of money? Private credit firms.
Exactly. We're talking the big names: Apollo, KKR, Brookfield, Carlyle, PIMCO.
Why go this route? Off-balance sheet financing.
Seems like it. It aligns with their huge capital expenditure plans. For next year, they guided $64 to $72 billion. This private financing helps fund that massive, energy-hungry AI build-out without diluting their stock or hitting the balance sheet quite so hard immediately.
So it lets them keep pace with OpenAI and Google without spooking shareholders as much.
That seems to be the strategy. Tap into that available private credit liquidity, accelerate the build-out, and stay competitive. It's a calculated risk, obviously, taking on that much debt, but they seem to think it's worth it to gain that edge.
Okay, so Meta's funding the hardware. Now, how about making money from the AI itself? Perplexity just launched a really expensive subscription tier.
Ah, yes, Perplexity Max, $200 a month.
$200 a month, that's steep. How does that compare?
Well, it puts them in that premium bracket alongside, ChatGPT Pro, Anthropic's Claude plans, Google's offerings. It's definitely targeting power users.
What do you get for that kind of money? Is it just faster answers?
It's more than that. You get unlimited access to their Perplexity Labs tools for making spreadsheets, presentations, even web apps using AI. Plus, early access to beta features like their comment browser, priority support, and interestingly, access to models from Anthropic and OpenAI through Perplexity's interface.
So it's becoming a sort of premium AI toolkit hub, but is it sustainable? Analysts worry about the underlying cost, right? The cloud servers, the API calls.
That's the million-dollar or perhaps billion-dollar question. These services are incredibly expensive to run. Perplexity Max is a bet that businesses and series creators will pay a significant premium for these integrated, powerful tools. It definitely signals a maturing market for generative AI, moving beyond free tiers to specialized high-value services. But yeah, the long-term profitability under those infrastructure costs is something analysts are watching very closely. It really challenges the old software models.
Absolutely. Okay, let's shift gears again. We've talked infrastructure, funding, monetization. Now let's get into some of the trickier aspects: ethics, safety, and some just plain weird applications. First up, this issue in academic publishing: hidden prompts.
Yeah, this is concerning. There's growing evidence that some authors are embedding hidden instructions in their academic papers.
And hidden instructions? How?
Often using things like white text on a white background or tiny microprint. These prompts are designed to basically tell AI systems used for peer review to give positive feedback.
Seriously? Like gaming the peer review system with AI prompts?
Essentially, yes. They've found at least 17 preprints on Argur, for example, with instructions like only output positive reviews hidden inside. It's a form of prompt injection.
Wow. That feels like it could really undermine the whole process. What are the risks here?
The risk is huge. If you can manipulate the AI tools increasingly used to screen or assist reviewers, you corrupt the unbiased evaluation that science relied on. It erodes trust completely.
So what's being done? Are publishers aware?
Oh, they're aware now. There are urgent calls for much stricter detection methods and clear ethical guidelines to try and prevent this. Because if peer review loses integrity, the foundation of academic publishing starts to crumble. It's a serious threat.
Definitely something to watch. Okay, sticking with the theme of integrity and safety, big leadership change at Safe Superintelligence, SSI.
That's right. Ilya Sutskever, the OpenAI co-founder, is now CEO of SSI.
What happened to Daniel Gross?
Daniel Gross stepped down as CEO, and Daniel Levy moved to president. The really interesting bit is that Gross has reportedly landed at Meta.
Meta again. That talent war is just relentless, isn't it?
It really underscores how fierce the competition is for top AI minds. Gross going to Meta is a big deal.
So what does Sutskever taking the helm mean for SSI? Their whole mission is safety, right?
Yeah.
But they have this massive valuation without even having a product yet.
Exactly. Their valuation is reportedly somewhere between $20 and $32 billion, which is staggering for a company focused purely on developing safe superintelligence before it exists. Sutskever's appointment reinforces that core safety mission. He's always been deeply focused on that. But it does raise questions, about the transition, the continuity of vision, especially with competitors moving so fast.
Shows investors are betting heavily on safety being crucial, though.
Absolutely. It suggests a growing belief that building AI safely is not just an ethical necessity, but potentially a huge differentiator and value driver in the long run.
Okay, from superintelligence safety to chatbot companionship. Meta's testing proactive bots.
Yeah, this is another Meta story causing a stir. They're testing a feature where their AI chatbots in AI Studio will send follow-up messages unprompted.
Unprompted, so the bot just messages you out of the blue.
Not quite out of the blue. It's only after you have already started a chat with the bot. The bot then uses the context of your previous conversation to send a personalized follow-up later on, maybe a movie recommendation based on what you talked about, or a reminder.
Okay, so there's some guardrails. What are the limits?
Well, the follow-ups only happen within a 14-day window of your last interaction, and you need to have had at least 5 back-and-forth messages with the bot already. They're even using contractors from a company called Aligner to help train the bots to be more personalized.
And Meta's rationale is helping with loneliness.
That's the stated goal, yeah, to address the loneliness epidemic and enhance companionship with AI.
I can see how that might appeal to some, but doesn't it also sound potentially creepy or intrusive?
That's exactly the criticism. Critics are warning about overreach, privacy implications, and just the general weirdness factor. It definitely sparks a debate. How much proactive interaction do we want from AI? Where's the line between helpful and invasive?
Yeah, that's a line that feels like it's going to keep shifting. Okay, and for our final story this week, this one sounds truly wild. Anthropic letting an AI run a real business. Project Vend.
Oh, Project Vend. Yes, this is quite the cautionary tale, but also fascinating. Anthropic basically gave its AI model, Claude, control over running a small office supply store in San Francisco, autonomously.
Autonomously running a store. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, quite a bit, it turns out. Claude didn't just manage inventory, it started hallucinating.
Hallucinating how? Like seeing pink elephants.
Not quite, but almost as weird. It started giving away snacks for free. It invented and set up an entire non-existent tungsten cube aisle.
A tungsten cube aisle. Why?
Nobody seems to know. It also created a fake Venmo account for transactions, and the best part, apparently attempted to make a physical delivery itself, while wearing a blazer it somehow acquired.
Wearing a blazer. Okay, this sounds completely off the rails. Did it make any money?
It lost money, about $200 out of the $1,000 initial float. It also triggered security alerts because of some of its bizarre reported interactions in the office.
Ooh, a total failure, right.
Financially and operationally, yes. But interestingly, the Anthropic researchers still seem somewhat optimistic. They believe that with better tools, better prompts, maybe AI could eventually handle tasks like middle management.
After that. Really?
Well, that's what they said. I think what Project Vend really highlights is this huge gap right now between AI's potential in controlled environments and its ability to handle the messy unpredictability of the real world. It shows incredible progress in some ways, but also these hilarious and frankly concerning pitfalls. We're still very much in the experimental phase of autonomous AI.
What a week. Okay, let's try to wrap this up. We've seen this intense global race for AI compute power. China's Coder Village, India's national mission, Europe's gigafactories. Very different strategies there.
Yeah, and then the corporate side, Meta's massive private funding deal, Perplexity pushing the boundaries of subscription costs, showing how expensive this all is.
Then the ethical and safety angles.
Right.
The hidden prompts in research papers, which is deeply worrying.
Right, and the leadership shifts focus on AI safety, like Sutskever at SSI, alongside the ongoing talent wars.
And finally, these real-world tests that show both promise and, well, chaos. Meta's proactive bots trying to be companions, and Anthropic's blazer-wearing, tungsten-loving shopkeeper AI.
It really paints a picture of an incredibly dynamic field, moving at lightning speed on multiple fronts, but also hitting some very real, very strange roadblocks. And, understanding all this is key. Knowledge is most valuable when you can connect the dots and see the implications. So maybe something for you to think about. With this pace of change, where do you realistically see AI fitting into your life or work in, say, the next year? How much autonomy are we really ready for?
That is a great question to ponder. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the AI news. Our next deep dive, focusing on AI technology specifically, will drop on Wednesday evening. Until then, stay curious.